really quick before we start today's episode. I want to welcome everybody, but I want to do a wristwatch check. So today I'm wearing an Oris Aquis diving watch, and we actually featured this in our last episode. It's not one of my personal watches. It's a watch that belongs to us. We're selling it, but it matches with my shirt today, so I decided to sport this and kind of give it some wrist time, see how it feels, advertise it, because a lot of times when clients come in, they always want to see what we have on the wrist, what we're wearing. So I had a customer that came in earlier today to show me a Patek Philippe watch. He said he just won it at an auction off of eBay. Again, if you're buying anything off of eBay that's over $2,000, if it's within the US, it'll go through eBay's Authentication Center. However, if you buy from outside the US, it will not go through any authentication center. And so the client came in, he wanted me to verify the watch for him, but he said he was going to send it into Patek to have them service it. And I told him, hey, this watch is a fake watch. And so he left it with me so I can type up a letter that he can use to show eBay to try to get his money back from the seller. And so what this is supposed to be a vintage 1940s Patek Philippe watch in 18K solid gold. Now, some of the suspicions I had right off the bat were the case. I haven't seen a Patek case exactly like this, the design of the case. That does not mean it's fake, though. Another thing I saw right off the bat was the dial. I know the dial is refinished, but again, that doesn't mean that the watch is fake. But a lot of times, people that counterfeit these vintage watches, they will automatically refinish the dial. So somebody that's trying to authenticate it, they're not going to be 100% convinced just by the dial that, hey, the dial is not original, because they say, oh, it's just a refinished dial, but it's original. We haven't pulled the dial off of the movement, but I'm pretty sure it's fake. Even though it's a refinished dial, I'm pretty sure it's fake. The buckle is made out of a cheap material. It's not even rose gold plated. This is like a coloring, like a spray paint almost. It's very flimsy. The strap is a cheap Chinese strap. First of all, that should draw red flags right there. If anybody has an expensive watch, they're not going to use a $2 cheap Chinese fake strap. It says genuine leather. It's not even real leather, but that's besides the point. I mean, there's other things here that are, more of a concern. The crown is not signed Patek. However, that does not mean that the watch is fake. This is a watch from the 1940s. Originally, it would have a signed crown with the Patek logo, but I mean, these get lost over the years. They get broken off, and watchmakers don't always have an exact original replacement. So that doesn't mean anything really. It could just have been replaced. Whenever you see square pushers like these on a chronograph, it means the chronograph was made in the 1940s, usually somewhere between 1941 to 49, obviously. Now, on a Patek watch, you're not going to see a gold hallmark on the outside or a serial number on the outside, such as you see on this one. So right off the bat, that kind of stood out to me. Okay, so this case is stamped to be 18K, but I didn't want to cut into the case and do an acid test because I don't want to mess it up for the customer and have them have issues in being able to return it. But right off the bat, I know on these vintage chronographs, these cases are very soft that when you bend them like this, they bend so easily if they're in 18 karat gold. So I don't even think this is 18 karat gold. It's probably like 12K or 10K. But again, we haven't tested it. Inside the case back, you're always going to find the Patek Philippe, their company name, their logo, the gold hallmark, a case number, and also a reference number. It's usually 3 to 4 digit reference. That's not there. And then when we look at this movement, this is a Valjoux 23 movement. It's signed underneath there. But it's a very plain Valjoux 23 movement. So these movements, they came out in 1916, and they were made until 1974. And companies like Patek, AP, Rolex, and Vacheron, they use these movements. And some other lesser brands use these movements as well, like Zodiac and Tissot and other brands. But the difference with Patek and AP and Rolex and Vacheron, when they purchase these movements from the original company that manufactured these movements from Valjoux, they didn't leave them just as they purchased them. They purchased the U-Bosch, which is just the base movement, but they modified it in-house. So for example, with Patek, like they made here, it would have had a swan neck spring with a screw, so it can be micro-regulated. Also, like right off the bat, I noticed that this plate here was left just like it was from the original manufacturer, but I know Patek actually split this plate in two and made two separate plates out of this. Another thing that right off the bat I noticed is this is not consistent with the Patek name that they usually stamp on their bridges. If it was a movement that was actually worked on by Patek or modified by Patek, it would have a serial number somewhere around here. Also, it would have a jewel count somewhere around here, but it doesn't have any of these things. But this right here, just the name, the way it's stamped, or I don't know if it's laser etched, but it looks very modern, not consistent with Patek. The writing would be going from somewhere from here all the way to here. This, they use like a 3-line text instead of a 2-line text. Again, it looks very modern. It looks very cheaply done. Like somebody could take that bridge and polish everything off and stamp whatever they want to stamp on there. And this is very common. So with all that said, I am not an expert on these things, but these just little clues just stand out. Not having a serial number. The movement is not elaborate at all like Patek. Again, they would just work on it and modify it and make it look better. If this was an actual serial number, for example, on the exterior of the case back, that would date the watch to like 1925. But this is definitely a 1940s watch, having these square pushers. So this watch he won at auction for $6,500. If this was a real Patek, the watch, first of all, it'd be extremely rare. I don't even know what the reference would be on this. It'd probably be a 3-digit reference on this. But something like this you would probably find in an auction house every few years. It would probably, it can sell anywhere from $100,000 to maybe $175,000. This watch sold for $6,500 on auction on eBay. But taking into account what it is, let's say if the case is solid gold, 18K, which I don't think, I think it's about 10K or 12K, but let's just say gold scrap, you maybe have $1,000 in gold scrap. And then the movement being a Valjoux 23, but again, it's a U-Bosch, it's a base Valjoux 23 that was used by lesser brands. It wasn't modified by Patek. The movement is probably a $750 to $1,000 movement. So you have probably here a value of about $2,000, and the guy paid $6,500. So it's always good to consult with somebody that knows about these watches, that have experience even before you're bidding on something, whether it's online or actually at a live auction as well.
Hi, my name is Paul. I have my gold watch 18K from 1969 Omega Constellation with the 18mm buckle, and that's my personal watch I'm wearing every day. I got this watch 10 years ago. It's a day date. The dial is also gold on 18K Omegas. I enjoy every day wearing this watch. That's my personal watch every day. Thank you for looking.
And so because my client told me he won this at an auction on eBay, I went to actually research to see the watch, and it looks like this person auctioned it off one time, December 17th. It sold for almost $6,500. Then December 26th sold for $7,300. Now I assume this latest one, my customer is the one that this is the watch he won on January 14th. It came from the UK. But here we go. Beautiful gent, solid 18K gold, 1940s Patek Philippe chronograph, 37 millimeters, recased. Now, it's not only, okay, so he says that it's recased, but remember I was talking earlier that it's not just recased. This is probably not even 18 karat gold. It's probably 10 or 12 karat gold. I can tell because 18 karat gold cases are soft. So let's just take a quick look here what he has. You know, this is the watch, and you can tell here that this is fake. You know, people should be able to tell. I don't know why there's so many bids on a fake watch. They can clearly see here the Patek Philippe, how it's signed, and this is not a Patek Philippe movement. It should be modified by Patek. It should look totally different. But let me see what he says here. Superb gents, 1940 solid 18K gold Patek, recased. The watch comes presented in a beautiful presentation box. The quality Swiss iconic Valjoux caliber 23 manual wind 17 jewels movement. In fact, if this was a Patek movement, I believe Patek added extra jewels into this movement when they modified it, so it shouldn't even be a 17 jewel movement. It should, I believe, have 21 jewels. All the chronograph features work perfectly. He says that the Patek chronograph dial is in good condition with only slight restoration. This whole dial is refinished, but it's probably completely fake. The watch, the dial is stunning in gold. I don't know. I don't say this is stunning because even you see how it's all stained. He should say the dial is stained, not stunning. Oh, and by the way, these hands are not even consistent hands for Patek of that era. These are Dauphine pitched hands. This chronograph hand is not a hand that Patek used on one of their chronos in the 1940s. The crystal is mint condition. The solid 18K gold replacement case is from a 1950s chronograph watch. The original case will have been scrapped for gold content during World War II or shortly after. I don't know. I highly doubt that because even in World War II, this was a very expensive watch, very rare. I don't know why they would scrap it then. And I know a lot of people scrapped the gold during 2008 because there was a recession. But even then, a watch like this was at least 50 grand. I don't see why anybody would have scrapped the case then. The solid 18K gold case in good condition. Blah, blah, blah. The watch comes with the brown leather strap with gold Patek logo buckle. Yes, gold Patek fake logo buckle. He forgot to mention that. Superb, rare gents saw the go. It's not superb and it's not rare because it's fake. And definitely not a great investment. Buy with confidence from 100%. Listen, so I'm not trying to call this person out. Maybe he just genuinely doesn't know. Maybe somebody cheated him. I do not know. But so when I try to check on this watch. So this is the watch. And it looks like he paid $7,300, not $65 like he said. Okay. But when I was looking for this watch, I find another watch currently on auction from the same seller, and the auction just started. Okay, started at $1, 0 bids. Again, fake hands. This is not a Patek hand here. This is not a Patek case. And let's see. Oh, would you look at that? Another caliber 23 movement. These are so extremely rare. And again, this is fake movement. This is not a Patek movement. It's Valjoux 23, but not touched by Patek. Patek didn't do anything with this movement. a scammer stamped that on there. And this person is trying to sell another one now. Beautiful gent, solid 18K gold, 1940s, Patek Philippe chronograph. Man, look at this case, 18K gold. This is not even a gold case, even though it says 18K gold. This is typical. This design that you see on case backs, you see on stainless steel case backs. So I don't know if this is like, I really at this point I want to test this case, but at this point these are just either plated or, you know, again, a lower gold content. Something is so off. I mean, I don't know what he's showing here, that it sold last time for 8,600 British pounds and the person didn't pay. Probably because they have somebody that's working with them that's bidding on these items to bid them up. Because a lot of people do that. Again, I don't know. This guy has 99.5 positive feedback with over 3,100 feedbacks, but you know, he's obviously selling fake watches. He sold this fake watch and now he's selling another one. So I don't know what the game is, but be careful, guys. If you got any questions, I tell my customer this. I have a good friend that recently came in. He wanted to spend some money, and he wanted to buy some watches to put money into, to invest. And I told him, listen, the stuff that I have in right now, they're priced right, but they're funny. He's calling me right now, actually. They're priced right, but they're not anything that I'm selling under current market value. So I'm not giving you a $10,000 watch that's worth $8,000. And I told him, I said, just flat out, you know, I don't have, you're looking for a great deal that you can just, you know, make $2,000, $5,000 off of, and I don't have that right now in my store that I can sell to you, or anything that you can put your money in, and I can guarantee that your investment is going to go up significantly in the near future. And I told him, and like I tell many customers, you have the money, you want to buy something, I don't have it. If you go out there, you find something, send me the listing. If you're buying from somewhere online like eBay, Chrono24, or another watch dealer, send me the listing. Let me take a look at it, because I can tell, just like I don't need to verify this watch in person. I can see just from the photos in this eBay listing that this is a fake watch. So, you know, if you got any doubts, feel free to reach out to us. Sure, I'd love to earn your business, but also I want to help people out. So genuinely, I'm telling you, if you do have doubts about something that you're buying, feel free to reach out to us. We've been doing this for a long time. We've handled tens of thousands of watches. We've bought a lot of watches from the original owners. We do a lot of repairs on watches from original owners from the 1950s and 60s and 70s. So we have a lot of experience with stuff like this. And again, you know, reach out to us instead of, you know, to the person that spent $6,500 or whatever he spent on this watch. It might not seem a lot of money to him, but it is a lot of money. And even if you were to use the movement for parts, or, you know, scrap the gold, you don't even have a $2,000 piece here, and he paid $6,500. But also, again, if something is too good to be true, it probably is, because if this was real, it should go easily over 100K, maybe 150K. I don't know. I'm not an expert. This would be a super rare model if it was real, but again, you know, be careful out there.
Here I got on a Longines chronograph. This is a gift from my father. He picked it up at a watch show for, I believe, $1,400, $1,500. You can find these on eBay for $19,000, $2,000, give or take, but I won't be listing it. Personal watch. So here I have new old stock Omega pinions. We saw a lot of miscellaneous parts and at all price points. We have some new old stock Omega Inca Bloke jewels. And then, of course, we have watches going up on eBay. 2 Rolex Datejusts, a 16030 with the engine churned bezel. The price was just reduced on our website, as well as this 1601 with the white gold bezel, available on our website.
Recently I sold like three of my last watches that sold. People didn't pay for them, and I canceled the order. eBay gives them 4 days to pay, so after 4 days I can cancel the order, get my money back for the fees, and be able to relist it. Right now I sold this watch, which we showed earlier, which was the Oris. Somebody bought it. It was 4 days ago. I can't cancel the order yet because it was it's got to be at the exact time, so it's still too early to cancel the order. But they bought it. They haven't paid for it. So this happens quite a bit on eBay. People buy, and sometimes they ask a lot of questions. They'll make offers back and forth, and then when you accept their offer, they don't pay for it, which I don't understand why they're wasting time and they're wasting our time. I don't know the reasoning behind that. I don't know why people do that, but it actually happens quite often. And also, I just got a return today. So there's ups and downs on eBay, but for the most part, I'm happy with them. But like, let's say here's another. So I got a return. This watch sold on December 19th for $1,400 on auction, and it was actually a very low price because I've sold these before for even up to $2,200. And it's in one of my previous videos. I showed a lot of auctions that I auctioned off and I lost money on. And this person, let's take a look at why they returned it. But I mailed it out the next day, so December 20th, and went out. And now today is actually January 20th, and I just got the watch back. So the person had it for about 1 month, and they requested a return, and they just said that they changed their mind. And I wanted to know, what was it that made them change their mind after 30 days. And this is one thing I don't like about eBay. They give them too much time to be able to return it. And we can do like no returns and stuff like that, but if we put on there no returns, eBay, we're still going to allow them to take returns back. And listen, I don't mind taking watches back, especially, for example, we do give warranty on watches. If something happens, we'll take care of the buyer. We'll reimburse shipping costs and stuff like that. But it's kind of not fun when a person gets something like this, and we wound it earlier, so the watch is I got to check it out to see if it's running. I got to inspect inside. I got to look to make sure they didn't switch the movement around or something. But they had it for almost 30 days. I mean, if you don't like something, you should make up your mind in the first day or two, and then request to return it. But eBay gave them 30 days. They sent it back. In a way, I'm happy because it's actually sold for a very low price, and I'm going to relist it. I'm going to put it back to where I can make some money, or at least sell for whatever fair market value is, which is higher than what it sold for on auction. So, but anyway, anyways, these are the ups and downs of eBay. So now I got to check this watch out, make sure everything's functioning properly, make sure nothing was switched around. But it does look like they wore it, so they wore it for almost a month, and then they want to send it back. It is what it is. It's just part of the business. All right, so I'm going to share some of our repair jobs that we have in right now. Every day is something different. Jobs come in daily, jobs leave our shop daily, but this is what we have today, Saturday. I don't know if I'm going to get to ship any of these out, but just want to kind of show you what comes in and what we charge for these repairs. So this is a very nice Tudor day date. So these are not for sale. These belong to customers. They've come in for repairs, but look how nice that is. Some of my favorite watches are watches that have the day and date function. And this one, we repaired the date and we did a service on the movement without any polishing or anything like that. It's got a Rolex bracelet on. So this cost the customer $300 to do. Same client send us another vintage Tudor Prince Oyster date. This is a jumbo size, so it's a lot bigger than some of the other Tudors that you see that are like 34, 35 millimeters. Actually, let's measure because I want to see how big this is. Yeah, this is 38 millimeters. Tudor Prince Oyster date two-tone, and it's got a Rolex bracelet on. Now this is a vintage Rolex date. This watch we've serviced for the customer recently. I think we charged them about $600. Did an overhaul service, replaced new crystal. The customer completely destroyed the watch maybe within a month. Sent it back to us. It wasn't keeping time, so we had to go through it over again. So now we're just testing it. Another watch, Rolex Oyster Perpetual. Same client. We worked on this watch not too long ago. He is extremely rough with his watches. Used it maybe for 2 months and it came back completely destroyed. We just put in a new crystal again after like 2 months, but we had to reservice it again. I don't know if he opens his watches to try to adjust accuracy or he drops them or what, but very, very rough with his watches. This is a vintage Lord Elgin. It's in a gold-filled case. Men's watch, small in size for today's standard. Not a lot of men wear these anymore. They're cool watches, good watch. Let's see, Lord Elgin. This was a $250 repair, which exceeds its value for a gold-filled watch, but it had sentimental value to the customer. But it needed overhaul service and replace a whole bunch of parts. This is a vintage quartz Pan Am watch. You can see the second hand is a moving airplane. And we charged $85 on this just to put in a new movement. The value really is not there, but again, another sentimental piece for the client. So that's Pan Am, like in the old airline that went out of business. That's Pan Am. Was a nice airline. And now we have 4 different repairs that came in from one customer. And this is somebody that found us on YouTube and sent us in some watches for repair. This is a very nice 14K gold Belova Accutron. It looks to be unpolished. We did have to do complete overhaul service plus new parts. We charged $300 for this one. From the same client, another solid gold Belova Accutron. And I believe this one was $250 for overhaul service and replaced parts. Same client. Sent just a vintage Seiko. This is like 1980s. It wasn't working. He sent it in for a battery. We gave him an estimate of $150 to repair. because it did not work with the new battery, but they declined work on that one, which is understandable because it's not really worth that much. This is a vintage Lucien Picard. And what I mean by vintage on this one is probably a 1980s watch. This is actually 18 karat solid gold. And the client sent this one in just for a new crystal to be replaced on it and a battery, but we put a new battery and it wasn't working, so we actually ended up doing kind of like what we call a quick cleaning. Didn't do a complete like service, just to get it going for the customer, because we're only charging them for the crystal and for the battery. But yeah, the watch wasn't really working after a new battery replacement. And these, perhaps if I have time, I should be able to send these out today because I've been testing these for a while. This is from a local client in Grass Valley, which is about a 45-minute drive from us. But he dropped these off and he wants us to ship them back to him. Two two pocket watches. One of them, which is extremely huge. It's more like a clock. Like when you compare it to my wristwatch that I'm wearing today. This thing is huge. It's an 8-day pocket watch, but more than anything, I would say it's an 8-day clock. Yeah, we got that done for the client, and I think the cost on this one was $300 to restore. And then also a 16 size Elgin pocket watch, railroad grade, and this one was $200 to restore. And what we mean by restore, it's also complete overhaul service and maybe put a new mainspring or something like that in that one. But yeah, so the cost on these two together was $500, and we got to get these shipped out probably today if we can.